We all know that very large televisions are becoming more affordable, and that might make you question the value of a projector in 2024. That I understand. Until you spend some time with a product like this, which is the Dangbei DBOX02, and it's a 4K Smart Laser Projector, and it proves that projection technology is developing just as fast as TV technology, because the picture that this projector can produce on a huge screen, especially for its early adopter asking price, which is $1,499, is damn right marvelous. And that's not me hyping the product up, that's not me bullshitting you, it's actually incredible. And I'm going to show you as many examples of this as best I can throughout the video. But it's also the world's first 4K laser projector to be running Google TV, which in itself doesn't sound like a very impressive thing, but in practice and in reality, it's a nice and big improvement. But despite how good this Dangbei projector is, and it's really very good, I think it could be better still. And I have run into a number of issues using it, and I'm going to get into all of this. But I want to start by backing up my bold claims about the picture quality. And to stress test the Dangbei, I travelled to Witham in Essex to the Hi-Fi and AV dealership Reference Audio, because they allow me to use their purpose-built cinema demo room that is fully light controlled, and they have a 4-metre acoustically transparent screen. And if you've never seen a 4-metre screen before, this is how big it is with me standing by it. And I'm going to show you more examples of this and the scale of the image throughout the video. And the reason this is a stress test is because the bigger the screen, the better the quality the projected image needs to be, because you can see all of the flaws more easily. And also the brighter it needs to be, but the brighter a projector gets, the harder it is for it to still have a good black level. So if the projector does good in these conditions, of course it's going to do a better job on a smaller screen in maybe a more real-world scenario. So that's really important. And while we're talking about screen sizes, the Dangbei is rated up to 200 inches, which is over 5 meters. That's an enormous screen. And normally 4-meter screens or 5-meter screens, traditionally you would need a big projector from maybe Sony or JVC or one of those brands. And normally those projectors are going to cost, 5 times more at least than what the Dangbei does. So do remember that as you're watching the video and looking at the demo clips. And what I've found most impressive is with the right source quality, the Dangbei is good enough to create what I call the giant window that you look through onto the content. I also really liked how with HDR content, I could push the contrast control up a lot for a more dynamic picture, and the image didn't lose its color saturation and didn't blow out in all but the most extreme of cases and scenarios. The Shallows is a torture test disc for any projector due to its very high nits mastering. And I did a test on the beach scene, and you can see the Dangbei on this 4-meter screen starts to lose detail around 68 on the contrast control, but that's a lot more than the stock setting of 50. And this makes the image brighter, have a lot more 3D pop, and this is me setting the image to my personal preference, but it works. And even on a disc like this, the Shallows, the image looks incredible. And I have seen many projectors really lose their composure with this disc because it's such a brightness torture test. But the Dangbei managed to keep the image composed at all times, keeping the color saturation to the image, keeping the green color saturation to the image without it becoming luminous. And it just looked damn right marvelous. There is no other word for it. I used 2 other stress test 4K UHD discs, Pacific Rim and John Wick 4, as both have very high dynamic range scenes where there is ultra bright and dark on the screen at the same time. Pacific Rim is a disc that always looks good, it's that type of image, but when you have seen it as many times as I have, seeing it with this extra level of clarity and that colour purity and the way the image pops off the screen in a 3D fashion, it's just that bit more impressive. And again, this is a marvellous picture for the money. There is no other word for it. With John Wick 4, I was particularly impressed with how the Dangbei kept the details in the shadows really clear without me needing to raise the brightness, essentially raising the whole black floor. The brightness control was always on the stock setting of 50, and that was about perfect nearly all of the time. I love the cinematography of the nightclub scene in John Wick 4, with all of the water and the spotlights and the bright colours, and especially the camera angles that they've used. And now I make video for myself, I appreciate just how challenging this must have been to all get on camera and keep it looking this clean and this impressive. John Wick 4 deliberately has this very contrasty, gritty look to it, but it's a super clean looking movie or disc, and the Dangbei could easily show me the movie's production qualities that I value and appreciate. Again, the image quality is marvellous. There's no other word for it. Flicking through some scenes from other discs, one that impressed me the most when I reviewed and tested in the same way the Xgimi Horizon Ultra projector about a year ago was Aquaman, again on 4K Blu-ray. It was the first time I had seen Dolby Vision on a projector and I was massively impressed, but I think the same movie with the same setup looked noticeably better on the Dangbei because the image is clearer, more defined, and there is more noticeable 3D pop, which makes me think there is better contrast. But this comparison is only from my memory, so take it with a pinch of salt or just for what it is. Either way, Aquaman looked absolutely amazing to me on this setup. Ridiculously good for the money, marvellous for the money. SDR content streamed from YouTube from the Google TV platform in the Dangbei could look incredible too, because again it's so clean and clear and crazy high quality considering it's YouTube. It's huge TV-like in a lot of regards. And remember, a 4-meter screen will punish the quality of everything, but even YouTube looked particularly good, especially with the MEMC movement compensation set on medium, which is artificial, yes, but it's done very well here and it makes the content pop more and look more 3D. I didn't like it for 24 frames per second movies, but for higher frame rates or TV type content, I liked it on medium. Low and high seemed to produce artifacts, but medium was the best way to use the technology I found. Depending on what picture mode you are in, the colours can look a little typical projector undersaturated, but I prefer them to be rich and saturated, more TV-like. So I mostly use the custom picture mode, with the exception of YouTube, which looked fantastic through the standard mode. But I was very impressed with how good skin tones looked and how the detail of skin was being produced. And I don't mean over-sharpened or over-emphasized skin pores, I mean the actual texture of someone's skin on their face. It was very visible here, and that really impressed me. The movement from the projector was very good. Not perfect all of the time, but very good, more than less. I was very happy with that. But do bear in mind, all of the clips that you've been seeing are, of course, me shooting video of a screen. So you're seeing a lot of artifacts and negative traits off the side of that. One of them will be possibly some vertical banding, which is just a byproduct of the camera settings and really the DLP technology that's in the projector, and I assume the color wheel technology that's being used. So if you're seeing like horizontal banding happening, that's purely because of the camera's refresh rate. With my eyes, I couldn't see any negative effects of DLP technology, so no banding, no color spotting, no rainbow effect, and no horizontal or vertical banding. Literally nothing, but I am not sensitive to these negative traits of this technology. And hopefully by now you have seen enough to see why I have been so impressed by the Dangbei's picture quality. Yes, it's not perfect, but it can be so good I know it will hold its own with much more expensive projectors. They will still be better, of course, but it will hold its own with them from this very small affordable package, and it will be enough for a lot of people. And I'm talking big screen, black room, proper high-end home cinema conditions. In a normal room with ambient light and maybe a good ambient light projecting screen, I think most people will be more than happy with the picture this produces. And I really do wish that was the end of the review. I could draw a line under it and just say, yeah, maybe here are the specs. But I still think, despite how good it is, there are a number of things that can be improved here with this projector, and I have run into a number of issues that I think it's only right to talk about in this review. But before I started down the path of complaints, I was very impressed with the Dangbei itself, the overall packaging quality, the overall build quality, and the looks. It's a nice mixture of modern and traditional home cinema projector. I got unlucky with my early production review sample, as when I removed the top protective sleeve, a lot of glue residue was left behind. But as the top is glass, on an all aluminium frame, it cleaned off no problem without leaving any marks behind. If I rotate the Dangbei around, you can see it's mostly vents for the built-in speakers and ventilation, so I thought it might be quite fan noisy, but it's not. There is a little bit of a whir sound, but it's quiet by general projector standards, and the unit doesn't get hot even after many hours on full brightness. But it does definitely get noisy if you put it into high performance mode, and then the jets kick in like this. So I'm glad there is the option to put it in this mode, because it gives us the choice to suffer that fan noise for that little bit of extra picture quality. And it's maybe 5 or 10% better, but it's that percentage points that us enthusiasts sometimes, depending on the mood, we are chasing. And even with in high performance mode, for a couple of hours, I didn't find that the unit got that hot. So maybe that's something good to know about. On the rear, it's a pretty standard affair. 2 USB, 2 HDMI, one with EARC, an SPDIF digital output, a headphone output, and a LAN network connection. But there is also built-in Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.2, and of course it needs power, and that comes from an external brick, which is nice quality, but the cable from the brick is not very long, and the included power cable to the brick is very short. Both of these should be longer Dangbei, big slap on the wrist. And also I think I should explain really the benefit of Google TV, as this is like a big feature of this projector. And really the difference between Google TV and Android TV, which is what a lot of the projectors I've looked at, and I think some of the older ones from last couple of years were running on, really is that the streaming services that you can stream through the projector itself now run natively. And I was particularly thinking about Netflix, because with an Android TV system, yes, you can watch Netflix, but maybe you have to do a workaround to be able to do that. But from my experience, the picture quality you get and the overall experience is just not full quality. Whereas with Google TV, apps like Netflix, Disney, and Amazon, etc., they all run natively, so you get the best picture quality from them. So a real world example of this would be with the Xtreme Horizon Ultra that I reviewed last year. That was using Android TV, and the streaming platform in that wasn't very good. So I recommended to everybody to use an external solution, something like an Apple TV box. But with the Dangbei DBOX02, the built-in streaming is just as good, or nearly as good, as from the Apple TV. But the picture quality and the performance you get, the image from the streaming services, is as good as the Apple TV. So you don't need an Apple TV solution, or I'm not recommending that like I was with the Xtreme. So that could save somebody maybe £150, plus all the extra cables and power, etc. needed. And Google TV is also very easy to set up. I did it all through my phone, which is great. And the Dangbei has all of the modern projector auto convenience features that I am now used to, such as autofocus, the best version I've seen so far, auto keystone, auto alignment, auto obstacle detection, all technologies to try and get you a perfectly orientated image much easier. And to make it possible to use a projector when you don't have things all perfectly set up in your room, something that we didn't have only a few years ago. I particularly like the auto screen alignment feature, which, as you can see, did a fantastic job of fixing my bodged effort of angle and height adjustment for a projector towards the screen. I mean, it's a 4-meter screen and I still managed to miss it. But in practice, trying to get the angle of something absolutely perfect is not that easy. So having these extra convenience features do make a difference. And you can zoom the image in and you can move it around within the frame. But the maximum frame size that you will always get is based on the distance from the projector away from the screen. So you have to take into account that distance, and it's called a projector's throw ratio. And you'll find videos explaining this if you need to research to understand this. One more of the features I want to talk about is eye protection, because it's great to have for child safety, because it's supposed to dim the image if the projector detects eyes in front of it. But that did not work well for me. When I tested it at home, it worked, but I found it to be oversensitive. But as you can see, when I tested it here, it didn't seem to work. So that was an oddity. And this is where, sadly, I have to point out the issues that I've been having with the Dangbei. And some of them are very minor. And I have to, clarify that at the time of shooting this video this week, the Dangbei was only released on Monday. And I've had a unit here for about a month. So I have a very early production sample. And there's already been several firmware updates fixing certain things since I've received it, so in the last month. But I do think that there are more needed further still. Because firstly, in YouTube, quite randomly, if the content was in 4K resolution, or if I selected it to go up to 4K, the image color would change to very red and contrasty, as you can clearly see. Lower in the resolution again, and it would go back to normal. This didn't happen to every YouTube video and not every time, but it did happen a number of times, so it's right that I report on it. I would also get weird behavior where if the content was HDR, I would go into the menu and see HDR picture settings. But later I would go into the menu and I would only see SDR picture settings, like the image was not HDR anymore, even though the top right hand corner would say that it is. And this is confusing, of course, as you don't know what you're watching. And one time I very obviously saw the image drop from HDR to SDR. So this is something else I found a bit frustrating. Another issue would be I would set custom picture settings for HDR, but when I started the content, the colors and contrast would look muted, and I would have to go into the menu and press the custom button to get the image to look back to how I had set it and wanted it to be. And this was happening all the time. So I was having to do this repeatedly, which is frustrating, of course. The auto brightness feature would sometimes make the image far too dim for no reason, and often the sub-menus would show you a different numerical value than what the settings had been adjusted to. This is again for the picture menu, and that was confusing at first to me until I realized what was happening. But of course, I'm going to be honest, this type of situation where brand new technology gets released and needs firmwares to fix certain bugs is very common. We see this all the time these days, even from big companies like Microsoft and Apple. But in the same vein, I'm definitely not defending Dangbei for this situation because I wouldn't be mentioning it to you in the video, would I, if I was trying to defend them? But the reason I'm bringing it up is because if you are an early adopter to this really fantastic projector, I'm hoping that these things, or mentioning these issues here, can maybe help you get to the best results quicker and save you some of the frustrations I had. And there are also ways I think the Dangbei could just be made better. The menu system is super simple, and I think that is done on purpose, and there was enough controls to get the job done and to get a great image. But it seemed like the custom picture mode was the same for both SDR and HDR, and of course that doesn't work. You need a custom mode individual for both. I would have liked even more custom modes so I could set different picture settings for different streaming services, for example, because some of them just needed it to be slightly different than others. And there are some basic picture calibration controls, but nothing that would satisfy a picture purist, so of course that could be made better. And also navigating around the menu was pretty fast and snappy until you're streaming content, and then all of a sudden the responsiveness of the button clicks and the menus just comes down noticeably. So of course it would be better if the menus were always just the same snappiness, right? That would make such a difference to the overall user experience. But there's one major feature that's not included with the Dangbei, and that is Dolby Vision. And that, to me, seems like a major omission, really, for a feature or a specification when a product like the XGIMI Horizon Ultra is offering Dolby Vision from a very similar form factor product for a very similar price, with on paper at least a very similar brightness. So that sets out, a very distinct competition or competitor product, and of course the XGIMI then has a big spec advantage over the Dangbei projector. And it's also, I think, a bit prettier and a bit nicer looking, especially with its very fancy, slide up and down, filter that goes over the lens. So I think that the XGIMI could look nicer in some modern decors and modern rooms. But if it was my money and I was buying a projector more based on the picture quality, then I think I would choose, or I definitely know I would choose the Dangbei, because the Dangbei gave me that extra clarity and clear color quality and just extra bit of special magic to the image quality. The XGIMI is excellent. I really enjoyed my time with that, but I do not remember it giving me that really clear see-through giant window, illusion or effect, just because of the image clarity compared to the Dangbei. The Dangbei really is exceptionally good in that regard. The picture quality from it is no other word for it, marvelous, ridiculously good for the money. And then the sound quality from the built-in dual 12-watt speakers I thought was fantastic too, and rivaled that of what's built into the XGenie Horizon Ultra. It sounded really clear and quite ballsy given what it is, and it could also do some pretty impressive pseudo surround imaging, way better than it has any right to. And when I was watching Monarch Legacy of the Monsters, it sounded like there was a baby crying in the front corner of the room, which is super impressive from built-in speakers, but of course it's not going to replace a proper home cinema setup or good soundbar or similar. So I think to sum up this review, in terms of picture quality, what the Dangbei DBOX02, formerly known as the Mars Pro 2, or Mars 2 Pro, what it can produce is nothing short of remarkable, marvellous, absolutely ridiculously good for the money. And I actually think it's the best one I've seen so far, picture quality wise, or it's the one to beat, I think, around this kind of price point. But with the current firmware, some of the issues, obviously that's going to dampen the user experience of the early adopters just that little bit. So this video now acts as a report to go back to Dangbei, so hopefully they can fix all of those issues. But taking the issues aside out of the equation or picture for 1 minute, I think what Dangbei have tried to create here is a very modern, modern smart projector that's designed for general media room environments where somebody wants to watch TV, they want to watch movies, they want to play games, maybe in an ambient room of ambient light at times. And I think if you've got a good quality ambient light rejection screen, I think they've given this enough brightness and enough picture quality to give you a fantastic experience, and then you can put movies on at night and get something really special. I think that was the intention here, and that's what they've done. But I don't know if the intention was this. But I think what Dangbei have created is a genuine high-performance home cinema projector for those enthusiasts that have the black room or the dark room, are looking for really high-level picture quality. And this can give you it, not to the best of the best, but up there that's going to hold its own with the best of the best for like a fifth of the cost or something. So yeah, it's not going to get you all the way there, but it's going to give you a healthy taste of what the really big, expensive stuff can do from a really nice small package. And I think about that for a second. Whenever I see a product that does that, it impresses me. It really does impress me. It's not perfect, but boy, the picture quality is marvellous. It's really damn impressive. And hopefully you've seen some clips now. It's not me hyping the product. It's genuinely really impressed me. So yeah, well done to Dangbei. So I hope you've enjoyed this review. I hope you found it useful and helpful. If you've enjoyed it, please hit the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more reviews like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel.